Hey guys, how's it going? It's Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel with another video for you guys here today. And lo and behold, the Cowboys continue to lose, and they're 3-7 with the 9th overall pick if the season were to end today. And it just doesn't get any better. You know, it looked like they were in this game for a little bit. Then it all fell apart. Sounds very familiar. In fact, what makes this even worse is a couple things. Number one, the Dallas Cowboys have yet to score a second half touchdown in 2 months at home. Okay? In that same span of time, if you want to count the Detroit game, the Eagles game, and this game against the Texans at home, the Dallas Cowboys have scored a combined 3 points. And those 3 points came in the third quarter of the Lions game. So this team, if we really want to look at it, has averaged 1 point per game in the second half. And again, that's even with Dak Prescott, that's with Cooper Rush, and Trey Lance all getting playing time. Varying degrees of which I understand, but the point is that that's where your team's at. And the final thing I'll harp on, the Dallas Cowboys are the only team this calendar year in all of North American professional sports to not have a win at home. Will they get a win at home? I don't know. I think the Giants are probably the last chance they have. Otherwise, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't win any games, right? We're looking at a Cowboys team that's probably going to go 3-14, 4-13, have a top 3 pick, and we go from there. Now, it's really hard to really talk about this team considering the fact that your starting quarterback is hurt, the entire offensive line is dead, your defense is just decrepit. It's terrible, right? Because we go into this and we talk about what do we need to see. And I'm in the preseason evaluation. I like what I'm seeing from DeMarvion Overshown, right? I like what I'm seeing from some of these other dudes. We got a chance to actually see Jonathan Mingo. Did he get a catch or anything? He got some targets. He looks solid in his route running, but that's it. And again, that doesn't justify a 4th round pick, which, by the way, is pick 109, so it continues to go down. We're probably going to see that thing get to less than 100, which would be a top 100 pick. But either way, it's just not good. And I think that's what scares me is that when we talk about how this team is constructed, they are going to have 22 free agents this year. And some of them include Brandon Cooks, some of them include Zach Martin, DeMarcus Lawrence, etc. Those guys are probably going to be gone. And so now you look at yourself in a situation where, hey, well, you're going to need to use free agency, because you're not going to have enough draft capital to fill the holes that this roster has. Okay? Think about it. At the quarterback position, you have Dak Prescott for at minimum the next 3 to 4 years, whether you like it or not. Your running back room is going to need some work. Your wide receiver core, you're going to need to probably add a guy, maybe 2. Your tight end room, I think you're okay and set there. Your offensive line is going to need some work, right? You know, you're going to have Zach Martin leaving. Do you cut Terrence Steele and you move Guyton over to right tackle and you move the entire offensive line around? You're going to need to add some guys there. Your defense, every freaking position you're going to need on the edge, your linebacking room, as well as your cornerbacks and your safeties. And a punter possibly too, depending on what happens with Brian Anger. And you can't replenish a team through the draft that has that many holes. And when I say utilize free agency, I'm not saying you have to go out and spend a crap load of money. You need to use it effectively and efficiently. And when I say that as well, I don't mean go sign dudes from the clearance rack. Okay? Like, when you look at what happened this year, you signed in the free agency period in March and April, you signed 3 dudes. Eric Kendricks, Ezekiel Elliott, and Royce Freeman. That's it. You got a starting linebacker, which I would say that Eric Kendricks, on a good day, is a tier 3, tier 2 free agent, right? That's a good signing. I'm not taking that away, even though he hasn't been perfect this year, all things considered. Zeke, it's like a tier 4, tier 5 dude at this point in his career, and same with Royce Freeman. You're not getting any value with that because these guys are not adding anything. And I wish the Cowboys would utilize those methods of team building. Go out in free agency, sign a couple guys, sign some tier 2, tier 3 dudes if you want to bring in some camp bodies. I'm not saying you don't, but you can't rely on these guys to be the end-all be-all. And then on top of that, when you draft these guys, you don't want to put them in positions where they have to make up for the deficiencies you had in free agency. And use those draft picks to go get established players if you don't feel comfortable at a particular position group. Because what happens is, and the Cowboys have been doing this for years now, with Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, is that they set a unrealistic expectation on a draft pick. I'll give you a good example. When we talk about a guy like Ryan Flournoy or Carson, the cornerback we got, Eric Scott, those guys. I'll throw Deuce Vaughn in there too. They make it seem that these dudes are set to be the next great thing. We've hit on the day 3 picks from time to time, right? That's cool, but it's not going to be like that all the time. And sometimes these guys, they can pan out, but you're putting them in positions where they have to rush to be the guy that you want them to be when they're not ready. And that's what causes some of these fans to be like, oh, well, why isn't Ryan Flournoy the best wide receiver on this team, or why isn't he good? It's because people don't realize that some guys take time to develop, and number one, you don't have the time to do that, and then number two, you really think that these guys are going to step in and do well when they just aren't ready. And that's not the player's fault. That's your front office's fault, right? And then talking about Mike McCarthy, because I don't want to go super long-winded, which probably will, on this video. Mike McCarthy said at the end of this game that the team was frustrated. So now we were nervous, we were tired, we were unprepared, and now we're frustrated. Here's the thing. I'm not saying the roster's perfect. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy was put in the best position to succeed this year with the roster, right? I got you. But bro, when you say those things, that's a reflection on you. That's a reflection on what you as a coach are putting out there. If you keep saying these things, that tells me that you are not coaching this team well. Situationally, look, I'm a big analytics guy. Do you go for it? I don't have a problem you went for it. The problem is you don't understand the situation with your roster. And that, okay, clearly I don't think we're set to do this. Maybe we should just take the points. And I think that's the issue, is that, like, okay, why are we doing fake punts? Why are we doing, like, it doesn't have a reason. And I'm just very upset that this team really, on God, thinks that everything's A-okay. Oh, it's just injuries. The thing is guys, and I know people don't want to hear the truth. Dak's getting older. You're having other dudes that are going to retire as Cowboys for lives that have not won rings. And you're not doing anything to put your team in the best position to win. Okay? And we have to realize that if you're not going to win a championship with the current quarterback in the next 3 to 4 years, you need to devote yourself to building a culture and roster that will be set for the next guy. I hate to say it, but I felt the same way about Romo around this period of time when we got to this point in his career. And so this isn't just coming out of nowhere. When the Cowboys went 6-10 in 2010, and then they went 8-8 in 2011, and they went to give Romo that big contract extension, they weren't building the team fast enough. And so he was playing pretty well, aside from 2012 where he threw 19 interceptions, it wasn't really great. But still, you as a front office have to recognize, okay, this is the quarterback I have, I got to win with this. Or this is the roster I have, I need to build around that. If you're not going to do that, and even if you didn't want Dak Prescott, right, you made the decision to re-sign him. If you are not going to do yourself a favor and try to build a team understanding the type of guy you have, that's your problem, not mine. And I'm going to root for all these players, right? I'm going to continue to root for all these players to succeed, do well. I don't wish any ill will on any of these players unless you do something egregious. Even the coaches. But when you're not doing yourself any favors and you're continuing, to lose and all that other stuff, ain't going to work. So I'll end it with this. You lose again by 20 plus points at home. You continue to spiral out of control. You play the Commanders next week. I'm not the biggest proponent of tanking, but you're going to have to. Just organically tank. And I think that's where you're at. Your team is not making the playoffs this year. Your team is not going to win a championship this year. You're not good, but you're in position to get a high draft pick. Get as high of a draft pick you can, trade that draft capital, and continue to build this roster. That's where you're at. And so we'll continue to have conversations about where the team's at on a weekly basis after each game. And and then we'll start going from there. Again, I do apologize that I'm not putting content out as frequently. But when the team is not giving a crap about the year, I'm not going to care either. I'm going to match the energy. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. I appreciate your time in watching this video to its fullest and all that other stuff. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.